Welcome back to EtherLink AI Insights. I'm Alex, and today we're diving into a topic that's reshaping enterprise AI strategy. We're talking about AI agents and workflow orchestration, specifically how companies are moving way beyond simple chatbots. Sam, when you first heard about this shift, what stood out to you?
Honestly, Alex, it's the scale of the change. We're not talking about incremental improvements here. According to Forrester, 67% of enterprises with real AI maturity have already ditched the standalone chatbot model. That's a massive vote of confidence in multi-agent systems. But here's the thing, most people still think chatbot when they hear AI automation. That mental model is completely outdated.
That's a huge point. So what's the fundamental difference between a chatbot and an agent? I know it sounds like semantics, but I'm guessing it's way more than that.
It's night and day. A chatbot is reactive. You ask it a question, it waits, it responds. An agent is proactive and goal-oriented. Think of it like the difference between a customer service rep who answers phones and a business analyst who's constantly investigating trends and making recommendations. A chatbot sits around waiting. An agent is always working, always anticipating problems.
Give me a concrete example. What does that actually look like in practice?
Take accounts receivable. A traditional chatbot might answer questions about invoice status if someone asks. An AI agent, though? It's running 24/7, monitoring payment flows, flagging anomalies the moment they appear, automatically initiating workflows, escalating exceptions without needing anyone to prompt it. It's the difference between reactive response and autonomous action.
Okay, so that's powerful for a single department, but enterprises are complex. They're not just running one process in isolation. How do you coordinate multiple agents across an entire organization?
That's where control planes come in. Think of it as the nervous system that coordinates all your agents. When a customer requests a refund, for example, that's not one simple process. It touches payment processing, inventory reconciliation, fraud detection, compliance logging, and customer communication. You can't have 5 separate chatbots fumbling around trying to coordinate that.
Right. So a control plane acts like a conductor orchestrating an entire orchestra.
Exactly. An AI agent control plane does several critical things simultaneously. It routes incoming requests to the right agents. It maintains shared context so agents aren't duplicating work. It enforces governance rules and compliance policies in real time, especially important under regulations like the EU AI Act, and it logs everything for audit trails. That oversight is absolutely essential.
The governance piece is interesting. Why is that such a big deal now versus even a year or two ago?
Because stakes have changed. When you had individual chatbots, they had limited scope and limited autonomous power. Now you've got agents making decisions, executing transactions, managing risk across enterprise systems. The EU AI Act classifies these as high-risk systems. You need real-time compliance enforcement, audit trails, and human oversight built into the architecture. It's not an afterthought anymore. It's foundational.
And this matters beyond Europe, right? It's setting a global standard.
Absolutely. The EU AI Act is raising the bar for everyone. Any enterprise operating internationally has to design for those constraints anyway. So governance frameworks and AI lead architecture, these aren't compliance burdens. They're becoming competitive advantages. Organizations that get governance right early will scale faster and more confidently.
Let's talk about the business impact. McKinsey reported something pretty striking about efficiency gains. What did you make of those numbers?
The 35 to 40% improvement in end-to-end process automation efficiency compared to chatbot-only deployments, that's significant, but I want to emphasize what drives it. You're not just replacing one tool with another, you're fundamentally changing how work flows through an organization. Agents coordinate, anticipate, handle exceptions, and escalate intelligently. Chatbots can't do any of that consistently.
And Gartner has a projection about where the money's actually going.
Yes, in 2023, AI agents accounted for just 12% of enterprise automation budgets. Gartner predicts that by 2026, that climbs to 45%. That's not incremental growth. That's a wholesale reallocation of resources. And honestly, If you're an enterprise not moving in that direction, you're essentially betting against the entire market consensus.
So from a practical standpoint, if an enterprise is considering this shift, and it sounds like they should be, what does the implementation actually look like? What's the first move?
Start with a specific, high-impact workflow. Don't try to transform everything at once. Pick something with clear ROI potential, accounts receivable, order processing, compliance verification, something that touches multiple systems and creates friction today. Then design your control plane around that workflow. Make sure governance and observability are baked in from the beginning, not retrofitted later.
And you're building toward a multi-agent team, not just one agent, right?
Correct. One agent is still pretty limited. The real power emerges when you have a team, a payment agent, a fraud detection agent, a compliance agent, a communication agent, all coordinated through a control plane. That's when you start seeing those 35 to 40% efficiency gains. And that's also where governance becomes non-negotiable.
What about the skills gap? Do organizations have the talent to build and manage this stuff?
That's honestly the bottleneck right now. The architecture and governance expertise required isn't something every organization has on staff. That's why frameworks and platforms that abstract complexity, that handle the hard parts of orchestration, compliance, and observability are becoming so valuable. You don't need to be a research engineer to deploy a multi-agent system, but you do need to understand the principles.
So the message here is that this isn't some future possibility. This is happening now, and it's accelerating toward being standard practice.
Exactly. 2/3 of mature AI organizations have already made this move. The 2026 enterprise standard is multi-agent orchestration, not chatbots. If you're still thinking about your AI strategy in terms of individual tools, you're behind the curve. This is about architectural maturity.
And there's governance frameworks that help you navigate this transition responsibly.
Yes. Things like AI-led architecture frameworks enable you to deploy at scale while staying compliant with regulations like the EU AI Act. It's possible to be both ambitious and responsible, but only if you build governance in from the ground up.
Perfect. Well, Sam, this has been really clarifying. For anyone who wants to dig deeper into the specifics, the architecture details, the governance frameworks, real enterprise case studies, you can find the full article on EtherLink AI. Thanks so much for breaking this down.
Thanks for having me, Alex. This shift from chatbots to orchestrated multi-agent teams is genuinely the next chapter in enterprise AI. It's worth paying attention to.
Thanks to everyone for listening to EtherLink AI Insights. We'll be back soon with more on AI governance, infrastructure, and enterprise automation. See you next time.